Hello and welcome back to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel, and in today's episode, the Mitsubishi Lancer for 1974. Hello and welcome back. Now if you're new to Quarterlight, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s and sometimes beyond that as well. So if you're interested in cars, car brochures, looking back at cars gone by, it's really all the memories that these cars bring back, then please do consider subscribing. It is all completely free. Anyway, back to today's episode. A lot of people have been saying, well, we looked at the Mazdas, of course. We've been looking at Mazdas on Mondays. There needs to be a little bit of interest in that. We're not getting huge views on those videos, but still, there's a lot of my regulars who say more 70s Japanese cars. So the regular people are the ones who come first. Although certainly if you're a member, you become on top of those, I guess. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to please everyone, and it's impossible, but I'm trying my best. So more 70s Japanese cars, I think, seems to be the theme of what people are starting to want from the channel. I don't have a ton of 70s Japanese stuff, but I do have some. Like this, the Lancer. So let's throw that on the board and have a look at this today, and let's talk a bit about this and what may be coming in the future for Quarterlight. So here is today's brochure in this rather nice gold colour. It looks quite nice actually, this front cover. Colt Lancer. And then there at the top there, Colt, a new breed of car. Colt with the Mitsubishi badge at the top, and then we got Mitsubishi Motors Corporation shown at the bottom there, because this is a UK brochure. In the UK, I think they didn't really think we could manage the word Mitsubishi, so they call it the Colt. So you'd say this is the Colt Lancer, this is the Colt Galant. But obviously, as time went by is what I'm trying to say. We lost that Colt and we went to its actual proper name, Mitsubishi. So I really should refer to it as the name we said at the time. So the Colt Lancer. This is 1974. This really isn't the brochure we're actually looking at, even though I'm showing them because I like the cover. This is probably more of the brochure we're actually going to look at today, although we'll probably come back to this one because there's a few little extra pictures in there. But this is a nice brochure, isn't it? And like I said, they're all 1974 and they kind of like match with each other. You can see it's the same sort of gold on there as well. We've also got, what else have we got for you today? We've also got price lists. So that'd be interesting to see how much these cost in 74. You can see the word Colt instead of Mitsubishi on there as well. All this stuff is from 1974. We've even got a colour chart for 1974. So this particular brochure is for the Lancer 1600. No, it's not. It's for the 1400. What am I talking about? Yeah, today it's the Lancer 1400. What I was going to say, and I'm trying to, my brain's thinking faster than my mouth here. We're going to like split it. So today we're going to look at the Lancer 1400. We've got a separate brochure somewhere in here, if I can find it. I don't think I can. For the 1600, which will be next week. So we'll look at the Lancer 1600 next week, and then the week after we'll look at the Galant 1600s, and they look really nice at this time. And then finally we'll end with the the Colt Galant 2000 or 2 litre at the end of this particular Mitsubishi series. So that's going to be interesting, but I wanted to start at the lowly model first, although this is kind of like a higher spec version of the lower model, which we'll discover in a moment. Typical sort of thing, a bit like Datsun used to do with these sort of like garbage bin wheel trims. On the face of it, I don't like them. I think they look horrendous, but then I quite like them because they remind me of the Japanese cars. So my mind goes two ways on those particular wheel trims. But nevertheless, an interesting car, the Lancer, at this time. Still seen as a bit of a rally car. Maybe I've got a little bit of a rally picture that I can throw up in a moment for these as well. But I wanted to show you this first. Just thrown on the board there, this rather wonderful poster that's never been used. Again, from 74, showing the Galant. I think the Galant looks fantastic. You can see how big this poster is. I think the Galant at this time looks absolutely fantastic, and of course the Lancer there in the background as well that we're going to look at today. Tells you at the bottom the models we're going to look at. So the Lancer will be part 1. Sorry, the Lancer 1400 will be part 1. 1600 Lancer part 2. Galant 1600 part 3, and finally part 4 of this series will be the Galant 2000. Again, all using that word, the Colt Lancer and the Colt Galant. Colt, a new breed of car. I would love one of them now. Certainly at the time in the 70s, I think the design of that would actually tempt me away from a Cortina, I must admit. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. There's just something about it, isn't it? But like I say, Lancer today, the 1400, this guy here. But I wanted to throw that poster on there because isn't it fantastic? You can imagine it on the wall in the showroom, can't you, in 1974? With these cars in the showroom, that would have been very nice. Anyway, like I say, we often think about the Mitsubishi Lancer as being a rally car, but kind of like the later generation of rally cars. But it was a rally car in this generation as well, and I do have a picture of that. There it is in Rally Guys. I think this is actually the East African Safari Rally, a very tough event. And there it is, a bit of a close-up image of it as well. So a bit like other manufacturers like Ford, get into rallying and then your car becomes known as being a very tough vehicle. And then one final thing I'd like to show you on this really little tiny brochure. Sorry, I've got all these little bits I keep digging out and finding for these that you may be interested in, but this apparently is how it all began. The famous Mitsubishi Model A, the very first passenger car to be mass produced in Japan. I didn't know about that. Anyway, let's go back to the episode we're going to look at today. And let's call it how he would have said it in 74. A bit like when we're looking at British Leyland and their cars, and we're calling them, you know, the top spec models, the Vanden Plas. We're now told we shouldn't say that anymore. But I would like to say how we, you know, to try and bring us back to that time period. So here is the Colt Lancer 1400. Colt, a tough new breed of car. And we're looking at today the standard GL 2-door and the GL 4-door. So there's a couple of specifications we can look at as well. There is a dealer stamp as well. Let's just have a quick look at that. It's faint, but I know what it says. It says H. Duffield and Son Limited, Fulford, York. Don't know what's there now. And it's a little bit of a stamp there saying it's the main dealer, I think that says at the side there. So that would have been the dealer that all this information came from. The image itself, in what is actually a very beautiful shade of blue, it really does suit this colour. Grille, very unusual, isn't it? I mean, what are these all about? Looks like some kind of like James Bond thing, doesn't it? I think they're going for this sort of like spacey, futuristic look with that. I don't know, but obviously that was the Japanese design language at the time. Overall, not the Lancer you would think of when you think of Lancers, but I think overall it is a very interesting looking car. Let's open the brochure up and have a look inside. So as we open the brochure up, we've got some other lovely images. We can see this more standard spec model. Instead of chrome around the lights, it looks like it's painted the same colour around the sides. So that must be quite a lowly model. We'll start here and we'll kind of like look through the images as we go along. Step up to a robust new excitement. And I suppose the only thing that really stopped these cars being an instant hit in the UK was really early 70s. I think the UK buying public was a bit resistant to buying these so-called foreign cars. They kind of like stuck to what they knew. So it took a while for these to get going. So these would have been quite rare cars today, of course. I don't know what the sales numbers were, but I think it would have taken a little bit of time to get going. Although they're probably like extremely reliable cars straight away, and the usual Japanese thing of giving you extra little features so to tempt you into it. So I guess at this time, if you bought one at this sort of time, either the Lancer or the Galant, you was kind of like a little bit brave, you possibly a little bit different. Anyway, the Colt Lancer 1400 is a totally new experience in motoring, featuring a distinctive spare styling. Colt Lancer has a racy, sporty feel to it that can turn an everyday drive into a fun-filled adventure. The ride is at all times smooth and sure because a sleek aerodynamic shape, a low centre of gravity, sturdy suspension and factory-equipped radial tyres combine to give Colt Lancer superb stability and manoeuvrability over all roads and under any kind of load. Colt Lancer has room for the whole family and their luggage and a host of safety features to give you a deep feeling of confidence and security. Colt Lancer 1400 available in 2-door standard, which I believe that white one is that we just looked at, 2-door Grand Lux and 4-door models. Get into one soon. You'll find that there's nothing quite like it. And then to one side we've got a little bit of an image of the boots. Plenty of luggage space for those long trips. And a little bit of a GL badge on this one, so this is the higher spec version, the Grand Lux as it says. Moving along, it tells us to experience the exhilaration of effortless control. Very 70s interior, kind of like matches really the Fords of the time. We've got lots of wood on there. Look at that glove box, that's kind of like all wood or fake wood or whatever material they're using there, I'm not sure. Quite a dull looking steering wheel though. We can see those horn buttons, a long gear lever, instrumentation looks quite comprehensive. I don't think it's got a rev counter on there though. Moving down, it tells us Colt Lancer's cockpit is scientifically designed to both look and work superbly. The smartly styled wood grain instrument panel, GL, okay, so that's showing us the GL model, that picture where the wood must have been just for that higher spec model, incorporates a deeply recessed instrument positioned for easy reading in any light conditions. A tilt adjustable steering wheel mounted on an impact collapsible steering column allows the driver to choose the driving position most ideally suited to his individual taste. So that's quite nice. It's got a tilt adjustable steering wheel in 74. 4-speed floor mounted gear lever comes easy to hand, while precisely proportioned easy touch foot pedals help to make road navigation a pleasure. Colt Lancer 1400, an effortless control that puts the fun back in driving. And there is a little bit of a look at that unusual gear lever design. So a 4-speed synchromesh floor shift manual gear lever. And then a look at the interior, which is pretty smart. Look at those seats. It's very dark and somber with all that black, really all of the black. But look at that headrest design. That looks very forward thinking, doesn't it? I mean, this is 74. Look at Fords in 74 in the UK. They were very reluctant to give you any sort of safety features like a head restraint. I mean, even in 84, Ford was still a bit reluctant to put head restraints on their base models in the UK. Although in other countries, it was mandated a lot earlier, of course. I'm thinking of places like Australia. Anyway, moving down, let's see what the text says. Oh, actually, before we do, I've just noticed this. Look at that into the seats. That is very fancy, isn't it? I mean, even they've gone to the trouble of putting that sort of like design on the rear seats as well. That is very unusual. But yes, the text inside the Colt Lancer, the keynotes are roominess and comfort, wide body styling plus convex side windows mean you get lots of head and shoulder room, and the long wheelbase gives you plenty of leg room, space to stretch out and relax, slide adjustable 18 position fully reclining front bucket seats are standard on all models except the standard model where they're an option. Rear passenger comfort and safety are assured by wide high back bench seat styling. A unique all-weather flow-through ventilation system keeps the air in the passenger compartment fresh and in constant circulation. Colt Lancer 1400, a deep-seated comfort that goes to the core. And it also demonstrates that reclining front bucket seats and how they adjust. And then on the right hand side there, the handy rear side pockets for the two-door model. We can also see that sort of like revolving sort of ashtray type design. So that takes us to the back page where the specifications lie, and then we'll get to the colours and the price list. But I think before we look at the specifications, I think we'll just explore this little brochure a little bit, because there is a couple of extra images I think we'll look at. So in this brochure we get a second image of this kind of like low spec version. Let's just zoom in a little bit further. So the standard two-door model, we got these very plain looking sort of black wheels with a centre cap on there. So those are like fancy Japanese looking ones with like the high spec versions. And then we've got these instead of being in chrome are the same body colour, interestingly. And then looking back, even though it is the lowly two-door model, at least we do get an opening pop-out window. And then rather nicely we can see how that sort of Lancer badge is at the back there, and we've got a little locking fuel flap on there as well. Little tiny things like locking fuel caps, all those little extras that some of the UK cars didn't do. And then also on this page, in this like rainy image, we've got one in silver, but you can see this is the higher spec version straight away with these chrome trim pieces around the lights now. And then we open it up, and this is a double page of this blue example that we looked at first. It's exactly the same image actually by the looks of it, but kind of like a larger image of it. And like I said, the higher spec version with the sort of chrome around the lights. Very interesting Mitsubishi badge on there. Those very Japanese wheel trims, but for the higher spec model only. And the four-door model, and we can just about make out that Lancer badge is right at the back again. Tiny image. We do get a look at the back at least of this Lancer 1400. You can see the twin reversing lights on there. Interestingly styled lights as well, but overall I really quite like it. It does look quite Datsun actually from the back, doesn't it? Everything else looks like very similar sort of images actually. Apart from this one, it gives you a look at that glove box again, but we can see there it's got Lancer written on there, which was just out of shot. Door cards we saw, and then a few images there as well. And then it moves on to the 1600, what it refers to as the high performance package. So we'll have a look at that one next week, but let's go back to the specifications for the 1400. So back to the back page specifications. We'll look at this before we get to the colours and prices. I think looks quite comprehensive. I think we'll start up here where it's talking about the engine and mechanism. Look at this text, look at this little bit of a chart here, and then we'll move around this back page. So first of all, it gives us a little bit of an image of that 1400 engine, and then we've got this sort of power curve, so power output, horsepower, engine RPM at the bottom. And text wise, it's telling us efficient cooling and no knock performance even with regular fuels are two of the outstanding advantages of the 1400 engine, delivering 12.5 kgm, 90.4 foot-pounds maximum torque at 4,000 rpm. The 92 horsepower engine ensures you of top performance in both slow city traffic and in high speed open road conditions or driving. High efficiency hemispherical combustion chambers deliver maximum fuel combustion, resulting not only in outstanding fuel economy but also in remarkably clean exhaust emissions. Exhaust pollution is further reduced by such measures as recombustion by blow-by gases. So interesting, it's talking about pollution even as early as 74. We've then got the dimensions and weight, and then it gets to performance. So maximum speed 96.9 miles per hour. 0 to quarter mile, that's an interesting one, 18.7. Usually they've used a quarter mile there. 96.9 I don't think is bad performance really from a little 1400 economy car really in 74. That seems not bad at all. Steady 60 miles per hour, we're doing 39.1 miles per imperial gallon. Electrical system is 12 volt. Then talks about the lubrication system, the clutch, transmissions and manual 4-speed synchromesh, floor mounted, tyre sizes and capacities. Moving down, it then starts talking about some of the features. So the steering wheel is tilt adjustable up and down, permitting the driver to select the wheel position most ideally suited to his driving position and traffic conditions. We've got a variable ratio steering gear designed to provide high stability in both high-speed motorway and slow in-town driving conditions. The variable ratio steering gear adjusts automatically as turn angles increase to make for easy steering. Interesting. That is that little number 2 image. And then number 3 there, we've got a collapsible steering column. In the event of a collision, the steering column compresses to absorb the force of impact, thus helping to prevent serious chest injuries. And then number 4 is brakes. Big capacity power assisted front disc brakes with pressure control valve make for guaranteed smooth stopping without fade, whatever the speed or road condition. Rear drum brakes feature leading trailing shoe design. Tandem master cylinder is also standard. And then the suspension, Colt Lancer's rugged yet lightly and simply constructed strut type front wheel suspension gives a smooth ride and minimises wheel imbalances. A double leaf spring rear suspension, cylindrical shock absorbers ensure a slip-free powered transmission and smooth riding on even the roughest road surface. And then the sort of major equipment. So 3 models there, the 1400 standard, the GL 2-door and then the GL 4-door. So I've essentially 3 different models. So it's saying tilt steering wheel standard for the base model, and I'm presuming the arrows mean they're standard for the other models as well. Collapsible column with steering lock standard. Radio OP, which is option, so an option on all the models. Clock, not available for the base model. Option on the others. Trip odometer, not available on the base model, although it's standard on the other models. Cigarette lighter, not available on the base model, standard on the others. Ashtray, standard on them all. Interesting that the ashtray is available on the base model, but the cigarette lighter isn't. Parcel tray below instrument panel, not available for the base model, but standard for the others. Wood grain instrument panel just for the higher 2 models. Through floor ventilation, standard on them all. Sun visor, single on the base model, standard to have a dual sun visor on the other 2. Reclining bucket seat, optional base model, standard on the others. All vinyl trim is for all models. Unfortunately, you can't even get the cloth trim for a higher spec one. I guess that's why it looks all black in there. I'm sure that was very hot on a sunny day. Seat belts, standard on them all. Headrests, standard on the top 2 models, optional on the base model. Loop pile carpeting, none for the base model, standard on the others. Padded armrest, none on the base model, standard on the others. Outside rear view mirror, optional. 2-speed washer wipers, standard on them all. Electric rear window defogger, just for the top 2 models. Heater defroster with 3-speed fan, standard on them all. Radial ply tyres, standard on them all. And toolkit, standard on them all. At the bottom here we can see the date there, so August 74, printed in Japan. There is our little address, but let's move on to the colours I think next. Here is a colour chart, again, for 74. Again, kind of like the top here matches with this sort of gold colouring. That seems to be the theme for this period, and I'll show you why I'm showing that in a moment. But so this is the colour chart. And if it does zoom in a little bit further, the 1400s we've been looking at, the standard, the GL 2-door and the GL 4-door. Little numbers below are the model codes that these colours would refer to, and below that is the seat covering. So that black vinyl that we saw in the pictures was all that was available. So it shows you the colours here. So the first one available on all the models there is Fuji white, and I think we saw that. Below that is Amazon green. It's not coming out too well on camera though. It actually looks more black on camera, but I assure you that is a green colour on the brochure. And then it looks like the higher models, the GLs ones, we can have in Alpine silver, ASO red and Tahiti blue. Looks like Tahiti blue and Alpine silver. They were both metallic colours, and of course that would have been an extra choice colour there. So that is your colour range for these cars in 74. If I just show you the date, you go September 74, but it looks like there was a bit of an update. So this is the other colour chart I've got randomly. I'm not 100% sure why, but the only thing different about it is it's silver at top. So I wonder if they then became silver brochures for the newer spec models. The date is exactly the same, September 74, so maybe September 74 was a bit of a crossover period when the colours changed slightly. Even these sort of, and I'll just zoom in for you, even these model codes are exactly the same, so essentially everything's the same, but it looks like instead of that Amazon green, we've now got this yellow colour in its place by the looks of it. And we can see that sort of dealership stamp in the middle there. Looks like it's possibly a different dealership, although it's very blurry. It's like Allerton Motors on Harrogate Road, Leeds. But like I said, the only difference is it looks like the yellow has replaced the green as a colour option. Finally, we'll look at the prices, and yeah, interesting, the address on here. The Colt Car Company Limited, Dollar Street House, Dollar Street in Cirencester. Date here is October 1974. Model Lancer, so the cheapest Colt, or Mitsubishi, whichever you prefer, but I'm calling them Colts because that's how they were said at the time. The cheapest Colt Lancer at the time, £1,399. 2-door deluxe jumped to £1,528, and then the 1400 4-door deluxe was £1,597. And then we got some factory fitted extras, so if you did want the radio, it's £44.10. And then it looks like we got sort of packages now, so we got tinted glass and a heated rear window for £45.59, a radio, headrest and reclining seats, £86.34. And then looks like the big package then was you could get a radio, tinted glass, a clock and a heated rear window for £101.78. And then at the bottom there, rather amusingly, wanted the sports road wheels. They were £9.98. Surely that was worth going for. So there we go, the base models, I guess, the Lancer 1400s in 74, and like I say, we'll continue this series looking at these Colts or Mitsubishis in 74 over the next few weeks on a Wednesday. Next week we'll look at the 1600 version, see how that price jumps up a bit, see if it's got any extra features in, but certainly very interesting cars for the time, I'm sure you'll agree. And those wanting more Japanese cars in the 70s. I hope this is, fulfilling your wish to some degree to see some more Japanese cars in brochures in 74. I think these are actually very nice, high quality brochures, and I think Japanese brochures in the 70s were quite high quality, actually, considering the low price of the cars themselves. But thank you so much for watching today. I'll end by saying, as we always do, please do consider subscribing if you've not already done so. It is all completely free. Membership's a small fee. Have a look at the site for that if you want to help the channel by becoming a member. We'll end with this lovely poster. I don't know about you, I'm so looking forward to getting to the Galant. I could look at it anytime, but still I'm saving it for our episode. It looks fantastic, doesn't it? But I'm going to add a couple more boxes here you'll see pop up. One will be for the full series of these Mitsubishis. Of course, if we're watching it on the day this was released, there won't be any information there yet, but watch it later on and be able to watch the whole series here. And then I'll add another little box at the top here, maybe for our Mazdas, I'm not sure yet. But I hope you've enjoyed the episode. We'll see you very soon. Take care and goodbye.